Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Backstage Bimbo TV. My name is Allison Rouse, your most notorious groupie and author of Whoops. We've got tonight the life and times of notorious groupie, me. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another midweek Rocky Talkie. I want to thank you guys for just being awesome and really creating a cool community where even you guys are communicating with each other and enjoying it here. I love that energy. Keep bringing it, folks. And today, again, on this midweek Rocky Talkie, I'm going to kind of continue talking about other groupies. Today, we are going to talk about a groupie she's called an 80s groupie, which I don't know why, because she wasn't around. She was too young to be a groupie in the 80s. But she slept with a lot of never was has-beens from the 80s. So she was more of a 90s, maybe early 2000s groupie, it sounds like. So we're going to talk about Roxana Shirazi, guys. And don't get me wrong, I love what Roxana Shirazi does as far as empowering women and, animal rights and stuff like that. I have mad respect for her in that aspect. But we're going to talk about the groupie side, and that's it, because I do not want to knock any other part of her life. And I'm not knocking this either. I'm just stating my opinion. All right. So everybody, I'm just got done filming the Rockers versus Dating, and I'm still drinking my Kilted Harley. This is one of our local salt flats. So good, you guys. This is one of my easy go-to beers. It's so delicious. All right. So everybody, kick up your feet. Let's have a little Rocky Talkie about Roxana Shirazi. Cheers, big ears. Okay, so I didn't know, again, Roxana, I was around while Roxana was. I was in and out of the UK at the time. I didn't ever meet her because I was hanging out with different bands than she was. Like I said, she was more she was with Dizzy Reed. Had a relationship with him, a solid relationship. Went on the road with him and stuff. She was with like Buck Cherry. She was with like Bang Tango, LA Guns, which I liked the LA Guns when, I hung around these bands. I hated Bang Tango. They were a bunch of dick cheeses. But LA Guns was awesome when they first came out. Like, I had the first version of these bands. She had the second rate, washed up, done and over with, small club playing version of these bands. So I don't know why people call her an 80s groupie for that reason, because she wasn't part of the 80s. She was more part of the 2000s and the 90s. And in my opinion, as far as the groupie world goes, except for Dizzy Reed and stuff, she was kind of more the back lounge Betty type. And I don't mean that rude. Like I said, I have total mad respect for her, and she lived her groupie life the way she chose to, much like Sweet Connie. A lot of people, like Pamela DeBars, looks down on Sweet Connie for her actions. And as groupies, it's not all of our way that we would live our groupie lives. And Roxana made some choices that she's probably like, I did that, but fuck, she owns them. So I have respect for that she owns every good, bad, beautiful, wonderful, ugly, boring part of her life. So mad respect for that. But I think she kind of needed more of the attention of the rock stars than how I live things. Like, I wanted to be part of the gypsy family. The attention, yeah, it was great. But it wasn't everything, because, you're going to get attention from rock stars, roadies, stuff like that, no matter what. But I wanted to be more deep into the real ugly emotions and intimacy of the eye of the storm of rock and roll. And I think Roxana kind of took a different approach. Like, she was looking for something bigger. She wanted to rebel against her, Islamic heritage background and stuff, which I studied Islam for 12 years. And that kind of was one thing that pissed me off about her book, because I was studying and practicing Islam during the time her book was released. And the only thing that they used to promote this book, which I thought was a total cop-out, because there was better things that were in this book to promote it, was, this is the book that's going to get this woman with a fatwa on her head. Which a fatwa is a declaration of you're in deep shit. You're doing something against Islamic law, so we have the right to come and get you, stone you, put you in prison, whatever. It's not a pretty thing, but now that has to be given out either by a member of the family, by a mutawa, which is religious police. It's got to be given out by someone, a man of authority, a man of authority. So I don't think anybody was going to put a fatwa on her head. And that irritated me about the way they promoted the book. Because like I said, she lived a crazy kind of backlounge Betty wild life in rock and roll. So they had better things to promote. They had better things to talk about. But then again, when she came along, it was all just dirty, sexy rock and roll bullshit. You know, people were having a twisted idea. This is before the movie Almost Famous. So people thought because we were so debauchery heavy in the 80s that, oh, yeah, let's go fuck the whole band. No, no. Debauchery in the 80s meant, yeah, we would be having, we were very open sexually, voyeurism, tying up, Lars Ulrich in his bottle. But it doesn't mean that we were spreading our legs for the whole goddamn band, just lining up for, the Dallas 5000. If you watch porn, you know what that is. It came out during my time as a stripper, and I knew all those porn stars, so I know what the Dallas 5000 is. So, and that's kind of, I guess that's the best way to describe how Roxana lived her choice of groupiedom. Kind of like the Dallas 5000. And, I think her pain she released in a very different way. Like, there's a story where, Dizzy made her terminate a pregnancy because he was married and he couldn't handle it, which I'm sure was a very, very tough decision for her. I'm pro-choice, but I've never had to make that choice. So I can't imagine having to contemplate that and what's going on inside. So no disrespect, but and it kind of gave, she went and slept with all the guys in Buck Cherry, got really super drunk because obviously she was hurting, so she released it in the absolute wrong way. And that at the time was kind of what people thought groupies were. Oh, let's go get, drunk this night. We're going to go and just slam the whole band. And after this, and I'm looking for my daddy and stuff. And even though that's probably not who Roxana Shirazi was in reality behind the scenes, she kind of gave groupie a bad name at the time because that's what she was portraying. She was going out, screwing everybody. Oh, I'll be with the bass player, and then the drummer wants me. Cool. And I've done that a couple times in the 80s. So I am not judging her or trying to look down on her. But as groupies, and especially, we were the last of the great groupie scenes. There was nothing after us. There's never been another scene like that in the history of rock and roll. I mean, like I said, maybe Brazil, but even then, it's still not the same. So you grow up and you stop doing crazy, experimental, wild, free-spirited things because you take your relationships with musicians more seriously, as they will take the relationship with the groupies more seriously. Like, they don't want that. We all grow up out of that wild debauchery, tub tarts bullshit and start really, hindering more on the emotions and the comfort and the relationships that we have with each other and what it brings to our lives on the road and stuff. And she was more about the sex, drugs, rock and roll, when the sex, drugs, rock and roll were like, that trend is gone. So, and at the time it was also, because of the grungies, it was also brought into the attitude that groupies are nothing but whores. And I feel Roxana perpetuated that in a negative way, unfortunately. Like I said, I don't think she meant to. I don't think she went out of her way. But I think she just chose at the time to approach groupie in a degrading way, which society even more spun in. And even when her book was released, it was still, unless you're almost famous, you're just nothing but a hoe. Almost famous is bullshit, people, okay? I mean, but, and I think, like I say with Roxana, I didn't agree with her way of life as far as living it as a groupie. And I've seen pictures of her and stuff, and she's in mini skirts, and there it's with her and Slash on the couch, and you can see straight up that skirt with no panties on. Learn how to sit like a lady, honey. Oh my God, I don't wear knickers. These days with skirts and stuff, I will, but most of the time I don't, and especially in my 20s, early, young. No, you're not wearing with your mini skirts. But I knew how to sit like a lady so the rest of the room couldn't see my vajayjay. Because that vajayjay is only for the guy I'm with. Because like I always say, there are rules to this whole no strings attached things. And, you know, if you're going around wild, drunk, and pulling up your skirt, letting everybody see your vajayjay, yeah, they're going to be like, no, that's a good party favor. She's going to be a good party for tonight. As to where if you try at least, you know, have a little Sophia Loren or Jackie O about your experience, you're going to be taken differently. And I think because of how she approached things, she was kind of misinterpreted, you know, because I think she approached it with heart and soul more than like Pamela DeBar's did or Lori Maddox and stuff. I think she approached it more with heart and soul than a lot of groupies have in the history of rock and roll, like I did. But I think she just kind of wanted to be the more debaucherous, the shocking, the sexually just woo out there. Just, you're not going to forget me because I'm going to do 12 different things that no other groupie would do. Me and my water, I'm always knocking down the water. But so, and by the time she was out, I was already the grown-up groupie into, I've already done everything like that, Sweet Pea. And now, like I said, you have 8 years with Vinnie Paul and 13 years with bass player and so on, 5 years with so-and-so and this and that in my life as to compared, you know, she didn't get to create the kind of bonds I did in those super long-term relationships. Like I said, she had a bond and a beautiful relationship with Dizzy, but I think the rest of it was just kind of a like disposable evening. Not that any human being is disposable, because we are not disposable, not a single one of us. But I say by disposable evening, it's when you're going to be like, yeah, that was a fun night, but you're not going to get the girl's phone number or the guy's phone number afterward. You're going to flick the whipped cream off your tits and go home, get in the shower. Because whipped cream down there, as a stripper, trust me, that, there's nothing pretty about whipped cream down there, guys. Don't do it. Don't do it, girl. So, and that's kind of what I think, how I think, you know, Roxana approached her groupiedom is more of a debaucherous, I want to shock the living fuck out of you kind of way. Which at the time, because of the negative connotations towards groupies before the Almost Famous years and after the 80s, just kind of really degraded, you know, had the newer bands and stuff coming out thinking that's what all the groupies were like, and that's kind of what the trend was at the time among groupies, when it wasn't. You know, people think as we were in the 80s it was so crazy and wild, but we still had relationships. We still had dignity and respect in even our one-night stands or our long-term relationships with musicians. You know, because you're going to be seeing someone for 13 years. You got to have a little bit more respect. You're going to be seeing him for 13 hours. Not much has to be exchanged but bodily fluids, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that, because we've all had our quickies. We've all, in rock and roll, groupies and rock stars, I just want to get off tonight, you know, or revenge sex, whatevers. So to each their own, but I just don't have to agree or be that kind of groupie for myself. And I don't have to like the negative connotations that it gave to the rest of the world. Like I said, Roxana kind of went the back lounge Betty route, but I think she was trying to prove a point, but maybe not in the way she intended to, or it didn't turn out that way. But like I said, mad respect for how she supports women libs. I have total respect for that. She's an animal rights activist, which you know I love. And she owned her own life and did her own thing. She didn't need a ton of friends around her. She could go to the concert like I did. So there's a strength in her that I do respect. I just don't respect some of the things she's done. And I'm not going to, she's already told them in her book. I'm not going to harp on her for things because I have had a few moments that were not so dignified. But the majority, 98% of the rest of my groupie life was lived with a certain attitude. And she just went balls out, jumped out of that cake, and woohoo! Threw her bustier back. No disrespect to that. So, but that's kind of how I feel about Roxana Shirazi. She did her own thing, but unfortunately at the time, I think she kind of, and even when her book came out, she kind of degraded the groupie name because people just perpetuated that urban society myth of what groupies are, disposable whores. And we aren't. So, unfortunately, that's kind of what happened with her book and stuff. Even though I don't think that was the intention. I think it was to show that women can own their sexuality and be brazen and be just as debaucherous as men. And still, be dignified, but unfortunately the dignified part was lost in the mix of things. So that's how I feel about that. Like I said, I think she has a lot of amazing qualities about her because she does empower other women. She's not always going around degrading other women like certain other groupies are and stuff. And I know I do that to one particular groupie, but you know what? I'm not sitting back anymore. I'm the type that sits back and lets people get done with their bullshit and their little games and their drama and doesn't pay attention to it, but not anymore. Time to fight back against that bullshit. So, Roxana, much respect to you, but unfortunately your message kind of brought a bit of indignity to the groupie name. So there you guys go. You want to hear more? Because there are lots more groupies for me to be talking about. Oh, yes, there are. So, and lots more groupies for me to be bringing on. Like I said, I've already filmed with Danny, the mighty, mighty Danny, guys. And it is fucking awesome. Like I said, she's really particular about keeping her privacy. She's very, very guarded about it, which I respect because in aspects of my life, I'm extremely guarded. So whether it comes out or not, or maybe it'll be a Patreon member only for certain levels of members, I don't know yet. I'll talk to her this week and we'll find out. All right. Thanks again for everybody tuning in to my station. Really, truly awesome to meet all the new people. I get the haters once in a while, but you know what? 98% of you are just fucking awesome. And I love how you communicate, not just with me, but with each other. It's beautiful. Thank you guys so much for the love and having fun and making this a cool, positive place. And let's get some more people to do that with. So hit the share button, hit the like button, hit my bells. And we will see you on Sunday for some more cocktails and rocktails. Cheers, big ears.